UFC Fight Night Vegas 103, Kape versus Almabayev takes place this weekend, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my prediction and breakdown for every single fight on the card. And oh my god, what an amazing stacked card this is. We're back in the Apex in big 2025 because, of course, who needs a crowd for a combat sport event? We start straight away with the early prelim opener of Montana De La Rosa versus Luana Carolina. I was going to go with Montana De La Rosa. I'm going to go with Luana Carolina. Montana De La Rosa has had takedowns in fights before, but she hasn't really been able to establish any level of dominant control. I know Luana Carolina has been taken down previously in fights, but I think she'll be able to win this one on the feet, and she'll have more grit and heart and determination. Montana De La Rosa is pretty good looking. That's a bad base for women's MMA. Typically, you fight with less bitterness and grit and hatred in your soul for the opponent. I think there's going to be some jealousy out of Luana Carolina looking across the cage at Montana De La Rosa, looking so good and cute and all that, and she's going to be rageful, and, you know, she's 31 and it's getting too late to have them, and she's going to go out there and beat her up. That's the fucking breakdown for the start of it. So we're going to go 29-28, probably a split decision, Luana Carolina. You know how women's MMA is. We're starting with that. We move on. Charles Johnson versus Ramazan Temirov. The rising weeaboos aren't going to like this pick. I'm going with Charles Johnson, you rising weebs. Okay? Ramazan Temirov is not going to chin Charles Johnson in round one. He could. But Charles Johnson's long, rangy, great chin, good cardio for the division. It's going to take a well-rounded, I think it's going to take like a Tatsuro Taira to tangle up a Charles Johnson in jiu-jitsu positions and also be able to kind of handle himself on the feet while being a very big flyweight himself. I don't think you're going to go out there and just tear him up and put him away in the first round. I mean, Ramazan Temirov, very good, very dangerous. I just don't trust him to get to the target enough to land a KO shot. He is good. He is very dangerous, and he's beaten iffy opponents, but some okay guys over at Rising. Like, he does have some experience going into this. This isn't like a young 7-0 guy that we don't really know about. He's fought a bunch of guys over at Rising. He just beat CJ Vergara in his UFC debut. Got a performance bonus for it as well. Put him away, but CJ Vergara has made a career of losing fights in the UFC, to be fair. Charles Johnson, although there's been some close calls here and there, I thought the Su Mudaerji fight was very, very close. But Mudaerji's his height and range, so it kind of took away where he does his best. You know what I mean? He's the outside guy. He's the rangy striker that's going to mix it up on the feet. But Su Mudaerji made that close because he's also that same body type for the flyweight division. So they kind of had a bit of a mirror match against each other. But within that fight, Charles Johnson found moments to hurt him and also made the adjustments that he needed to. Beat Joshua Van. That's a very impressive win. You know, I mean, Joshua Van is like a Temirov, maybe not as much early round finisher. He's like a Temirov, but later in the fight is Joshua Van. Temirov's very dangerous early. Am I going to trust this guy to get 2 UFC first round KOs in a row in the flyweight division? That's very unlikely. I'm leaning towards Charles Johnson for this pick, to be honest with you. I'm going to go with Charles Johnson getting this one done by decision. 29-28, maybe even a late rounds TKO if Temirov starts to slow down. That's what I'm going to go for here. This video is sponsored by prizepicks.com. Play $5, get $50 instantly in promo funds using code GURU. You have to use code GURU or it's absolutely useless and doesn't benefit me whatsoever. Go to prizepicks.com to MMA, significant strikes. I'm going to say that Ramazan Temirov will land less than 56.5 significant strikes because I think that his finishing potential is the way that he's going to win early, and that will be under this amount of strikes. And I think if he goes the distance, he ain't going to get that many shots off on Charles Johnson. I am also going to take Danny Barlow to land less than, because I think if he wins and lands that many, he'll probably put Patterson out, and I think that he's going to lose. So I don't think he'll get to land that many. Use code GURU at prizepicks.com. We move on. Andrea Lee versus JJ Aldrich. You know what? I'm going to go with JJ Aldrich over Andrea Lee. pains me to do it. But the reason why I don't really rate Montana de la Rosa is because I think Andrea Lee is starting to sort of slip in her own career. So by proxy of picking Montana de la Rosa to lose to Luana Carolina because of not rating her, I kind of have to now follow that logic and go with JJ Aldrich. I'm going to go JJ Aldrich. She's all right at grappling. Big forehead, anger, you know, she's going to have that spite in her. How old are we saying here? 32. It's getting late, you know, like we're going to, you know, we're nearly there. You know, Veronica Hardy's quite technical at range and she can play that very technical game. And I mean, yeesh, what do you want me to say here, man? I'm going to go JJ Aldrich, I think. I think she's a little bit more well-rounded than Andrea Lee, and she'll probably be able to get a few takedowns in this fight. I remember not that long ago, JJ Aldrich was getting some takedowns and stuffing some good takedowns against, what's her name? Whatever her name is. Erin Blanchfield, I think it was. She got caught in a guillotine, but she was doing quite well before that, and Erin Blanchfield, of course, was supposed to be the monster of the division that was going to go on to cause problems for everyone until we found out that she couldn't throw a punch once she hit the top 3 of the division. You know how it goes sometimes, guys. I'm going to go JJ Aldrich. Forehead. Anger. She's going to go out there, rage-filled. And I'm literally growling for fucking predictions in women's MMA fights. This is what we've come to in 2025 with these Apex Fight Night cards. I'm leaning towards JJ Aldrich. Aldridge, however you say her name. I'm leaning towards her. She'll win this fight. Her forehead's digging into my ribs. That's how much I'm leaning into her right now. So JJ Aldrich gets this one done. Andrea Lee's pretty washed. She hasn't really had an impressive performance in a very long time. She's pretty yoked, but she's getting up there, 36 years old, on a 5-fight losing streak. Why is she still signed? You probably pay her good money as well. I bet you they pay her like 70k to show, 70k to win. I bet you they do, because she's had UFC wins before, and she's been around for a long time, and she's been here since, 2018? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. She lost the rematch to Montana de la Rosa, which means that, you know, if she's not the one that's improving, she's probably the one declining. I'm going against Andrea Lee. She's on a 5-fight losing streak. You're probably still paying her 60k to show. What are you doing, UFC? Get rid of her. Jesus. After this one, I guess. So I'm going to go with JJ Aldrich. Getting this one done. We move on. Lucas, I'll say, by how? 29-28 split decision. Who saw that one coming? We move on. Lucas Almeida versus Danny Silva. This one's interesting to me. I like Danny Silva. I know his opponent that he beat just got cut from the UFC, Joshua Kalibau, so it's kind of hard to put this one into perspective, but I do believe in the young prospect of Danny Silva. He had a hell of a fight on the Contender Series as well, that a lot of people should go and watch if they haven't already. Very, very fun fight to watch on the Contender Series. Danny Silva's a savage. He really is a savage. Great fight with Pacheco. Showed his toughness, showed his grit. Same thing against Joshua Kalibau as well. Missed weight. I like that. If you miss weight, you tend to benefit from it, typically, unless it's some kind of injury-related weight miss that you've had. Lucas Almeida, he had some hype coming into the UFC. He's a little bit older now. He's just had some mixed results, losing to Philly, beating Timmy Kuamba, getting beaten by Pat Sabatini pretty easily, lost to Daniel Zellhuber on the Contender Series before his second attempt in the UFC. I don't rate a Trezano win. This isn't 2018. Where he was like a tough winner at some point. Like I don't know. I'm rating the prospect of Danny Silva over the, I would say veteran, but he's just 50-50 fighter in Lucas Almeida. I'm going to go Danny Silva. Like his striking, like his durability, his cardio, his toughness. Kalibau's a very tricky customer. Has some good wins in the division himself. Very good on the outside. Good at striking. I'm going to go towards Danny Silva here. Getting this one done over Lucas Almeida. Yeah, 29. I reckon it'll be a scrap, though. I reckon they'll go back and forth, and it'll be an absolute scrap. But I think it's going to be a 29-28 decision yet again. We move on. Douglas Silva de Andrade versus John Castaneda. I'm going with John Castaneda here over Douglas Silva de Andrade. That's what I'm going with. Douglas Silva de Andrade is getting up there in age. He's starting to become a little bit less active, which maybe reeks of some injuries in his old age. You know, maybe a hip replacement here and there. I'm not saying he has a hip replacement, but you know what I mean. Lost to Miles Johns, lost to Saeed. Nothing too shameful in that, but we have found out that Saeed he's not one of the Nurmagomedovs as much when it comes to his win percentage, to say the very least. Went to a decision with Cody Stamen in Big 2023. I know John Castaneda's had some suspect performances as well, but I think he's just very durable, and he will bring the fight to Douglas Silva de Andrade. He's very difficult to finish. Extremely difficult to finish. Daniel Santos timed him with a beautiful knee in their fight and put him away. But other than that, extremely difficult to finish. Nathaniel Wood, if you watch back that fight, was tearing him up in that fight. And he toughed it out the entire way, made it to a decision. Finished Miles Johns himself, submitted him in the third round, broke him as the fight went on. This is a guy who beat Douglas Silva de Andrade in his last fight in June of 2024. I'm going to lean towards John Castaneda. Younger, up-and-coming guy. Not up-and-coming, but younger. By not a lot. He's 33 himself, even though he does look quite young. I just think he'll be more durable, and he can push harder, and I can trust him to push a better pace, and I think that's going to be the factor here if I don't see a finish happening on John Castaneda. I don't see Douglas putting him away. He's not really a consistent finisher, so this is probably going to hit the scorecards. Castaneda, more grit, youth, less miles on him. More volume, more pressure. I'm going John Castaneda to get this one done by decision. As the fight goes on, round 1, Douglas. Round 2 and 3, John Castaneda. Another 29-28 decision on the card. We move on. Ricardo Ramos versus Chepe Mariscal. Now, Chepe Mariscal might be one of the more underrated fighters on the roster. I'm definitely going with Chepe Mariscal here. I hated him because he beat all the prospects that I liked. But now I like Chepe Mariscal. It's the circle of one day I'll like Christian Rodriguez. It might be now. You know what I mean? If he starts making weight. But either way, Chepe Mariscal, I've got him to win. Trains at Team Elevation. I like that for him in terms of the way he can push a pace. He was overweight against Damon Jackson. Ended up getting the win there. Didn't look the best, but the fact that he hasn't missed weight before and he missed weight for that one maybe means that there was something going on in that training camp. And you know, he was supposed to be fighting Dan Ige in July before that. The fight got postponed by a few weeks because of an injury. It got cancelled. So it's one of that. Ige got rebooked, actually. So he had to switch opponents and they changed the training camp. So, you know, I'm going to consider that something that was going on during the fight camp for Chepe Mariscal. But he still won. He won the fight. Before that, he beat Morgan Charrier, which is a good win. Arguably lost, but it was a good win. Jack Jenkins, he's pushing him up against the cage. You got a broken arm situation going for a throw. Beat Trevor Peake as well. So he's ruined everyone I like, is what this man has done, Chepe Mariscal. I think he beats Ricardo Ramos, though. Ricardo Ramos is just not consistent, and that's something that Chepe Mariscal is. Even if he is going to make it close at times, he will consistently show up and have a good performance regardless, and that's what we've seen from him so far. It's coming off a win against Joshua Kalibau here. Of course, this is Ricardo Ramos that I'm talking about. Kind of a close one. Very, very close one. Lost to Julian Rosa. Lost to Charles Jourdain. Got guillotined in both of those. Got beaten by Danny Chavez. I don't like that at all that he got beaten by Danny Chavez. He got a win over Danny Chavez and beat him. I don't really rate that at all that he got a win over him because I don't really think that Danny Chavez is all that good of a fighter himself. I'm going to lean towards Chepe Mariscal here to put a pace on him, break him as the fight goes on, win the scrambles, push him up against the cage in moments, tear it up on the feet, get in the pocket, swing back and forth. He's got a great chin. He's very hard to finish, Chepe Mariscal. I'm leaning towards Chepe. I'm going with Chepe Mariscal to win this fight. He's just more consistent, man. Ricardo Ramos is a little 50-50, and Chepe's undefeated in the UFC and going on a bit of a run right now, and if he wins this one, he'll probably be looking for a ranked opponent, so that happened out of nowhere. Chepe Mariscal's going to get this one done, probably by finish. Ricardo Ramos, if things aren't going his way, I can see Chepe Mariscal starting to pour on a bit of a finish and getting that statement win that he needs. Second or third round TKO for Chepe Mariscal is what I'm going to go with. We move on. Austen Lane versus Mario Pinto. I'm going with Mario Pinto. Risky, I know, but he's big. Not too athletic. He looks a lot more athletic in his Tapology picture than he did on the Contender Series, I'll be honest. He looks absolutely shredded on his Tapology picture. But on the Contender Series, he looks a little bit flabby and soft. But he still got a finish on the Contender Series. So I don't know what he was doing on the regional scene. Maybe he needs to start getting back into his push-up regime that he was doing. Because that is not the same man that I just watched on the Contender Series in his Tapology profile. But either way, he's good. He's experienced. You know, even on the regional scene, he got a belt in his promotion. And fought a 5-1 guy, 6-2, 8-3 back-to-back. These are guys with records, and they're not just random fatties that he's finding out of nowhere to get him to the UFC. Beat Lucas Camacho, who was 6-0 on the Contender Series, finished him in the first round. And the way that he finished him as well, it was like, it wasn't a regular heavyweight KO on the Contender Series, where it's messy or it's a one-punch massive overhand that lands. It was very technical. He perfectly placed a left hook on Camacho's chin, putting him down and then finished him off afterwards. But it was the way he landed it. I liked it. It showed that this isn't just a brawler. This isn't just a guy with KO power that is an athlete and therefore he can make it to the UFC. It was a very tight hook that he threw. Very, very tight, clean, no wasted fat on it. A lot of wasted fat on him on the Contender Series. He needs to get back in shape, but maybe we'll see him get back in shape and it could be a bit of a, Johnny Walker's brother's situation, who I can't remember the name of for some bizarre reason in terms of his first name. But I'm going to go with Mario Pinto. I think he's going to do good. Austen Lane is good. Austen Lane is dangerous. He can grapple a little bit as well. So maybe we could see him be a bit more of an athlete. You know, we're looking at the heavyweight Bilal Muhammad here. Maybe we could see him bring out the athleticism and shoot some double legs and get the takedowns going. But I'm going to go with Mario Pinto. Younger up-and-coming prospect. We've seen Julian Lane get knocked out before. Got finished by Janata Deniz. Finished by Justin Tarfat. And Janata Deniz, I know Lane got a takedown in that fight, but Deniz is a guy who we've seen get fraud-checked in the grappling and got blobbed on by Marcin Tybura. So that doesn't look good in hindsight for Lane if he was going to be somewhat of a prospect himself. He is coming off win over Rebellis, but Rebellis can't grapple for shit, hence why he's at Karate Combat now, or now at the GFL, ready to beat up on Frank Mir, who's 50 years old. I'm going with Mario Pinto getting this one done. Probably by finish. I'm going to say TKO for Mario Pinto in his debut. He makes it to 10-0. We move on. Danny Barlow versus Sam Patterson. Now, this is an interesting one. This is a very interesting one. I'm going to side with Sam Patterson over Danny Barlow. I'm going to take the underdog pick of Sam Patterson. I wonder how many people are picking this as the underdog. Not many. I'm going to take Sam Patterson by submission. A lot of people that are picking Patterson are picking him by submission. 77% of them are taking him by submission to win this fight. I could see him getting this one done by submission. I know he's not, he's got a scrawny neck and you're like, oh, I can just see this guy getting KO'd. You know what I mean? He's got one of those looks to him. At 170, I think he's going to be a little bit more durable. He's not training himself down to 155 anymore. And there's a skill to him. There's lighter man skill. He's a 155 prospect. We've just seen Danny Barlow, who went to a split decision with Voretnikov, who just got mauled by Austin Vanderford. You know, some of these wins that he has on his career, Danny Barlow, he beat Josh Quinlan. Quinlan's shit. Josh Quinlan is shit. And he did get stung by Raheem Forrest, who's good himself. He did get stung by Raheem Forrest, who's good himself. Quinlan's shit. And a roid cheat, and without him, he's nothing. He beat, Jason Witt. Well done. It's just... And he missed weight for the Voretnikov fight. And he was the one with the full training camp there. The Uros Medic fight was supposed to happen, and Voretnikov came in, and Barlow was the one that missed weight, and that went to a split decision. He's got good hands, and he has got knockout power, and he's got a lot of finishes in the regional scene, but I think Patterson can tangle him up. I think he can avoid a KO blow, be hard to land on because of how tall he is for the division, even though he was a former 155er. And I think he can tangle up Danny Barlow and put that 155er skill on him. This guy came up in the 155 division, Sam Patterson. And one more thing about him as well, he's not some Cage Warriors guy. You know, a lot of the Cage Warriors guys, they get pandered to quite a bit. They do. Like, they're the guy, and then the opponents are coming in to lose to them quite a bit. Obviously, there's other examples where there's a lot more dangerous matchups, like Harry Hardwick right now took on a monster in his last fight in Cage Warriors. But there was a while in Cage Warriors where people were just getting, this is the star of the show, who are we bringing in to lose to him that's going to be somewhat of a test? That wasn't Sam Patterson's way. He went through brave, which is very, very admirable in my opinion to go through. He beat Kamil Magomedov, who was 14-1 at the time. Finished him in the second round with a guillotine. You know, he had a finish over Almabayev, who hasn't got the greatest of records, don't get me wrong, but won on the contender series with a rear naked choke. Got caught by Yanal Ashmuz, but has won his first 2 fights at 170 with finishes by submission over Johan Laness and Kiefer Crosby, both in the first round. These guys aren't Danny Barlow level, don't get me wrong, but I think he can translate the grappling to a Danny Barlow level. He's a young prospect himself. I think he can make the adjustment. I reckon he gets this one done. 78 inches of reach. That's going to help him against Danny Barlow. I know he's got a long reach himself, but I think that's going to keep him at safe distance. Can throw his arms out there, play the little, you know, inflatable tube arm guy thing to stay away from the shot. Zombie guard, I think they call it. So I'm going to go with Sam Patterson getting this one done by submission. I think he'll be in some scrappy moments. There'll be some moments where Danny Barlow comes towards him, pressuring him. I can see him shooting in, getting the body lock. Barlow scrambling it good initially, but then maybe Sam Patterson gets to the back, tangles him up. A little bit of a Moicano Jalen Turner situation, the way he spins him and drags him down. And then I think we're going to see Sam Patterson get himself a finish. Rear naked choke, first or second round, late first round, early second round, midway through the second round, rear naked, I think, from Sam Patterson is what we're going to see here. I'm going with him, getting this one done. In terms of technical jiu-jitsu skill, I'm going to trust a 155er, who's massive and should be a 170er anyway, but came up at 155, fighting 155ers, who are much better than Veretnikov, who took you to a split decision on short notice. Yikes. We move on. William Gomis versus Hyder Amil. I'm going with William Gomis. I don't know why they made this matchup. I think William Gomis deserves better than this, in all honesty. Hyder Amil's good, but he's not all that, and I don't think he's what his record suggests. 10-0 is a very nice-looking record, don't get me wrong, and he does have some good wins in his career. His last win was pretty good. He landed a multiple crazy punch combination on Jiang Lee. I'm sorry, guys. I've been awake for so long. I just streamed for 11 hours. I'm not kidding. I literally just streamed for 11 hours. That's not a joke. I was live for 11 and a half hours. No fight companion. I was just live yapping for 11 and a half hours. Either way. Yeah, I'm going against Hyder Amil. Fernie Garcia is trash. Emre Sonmez on the contender series. Yuck. Jiang Lee, yuck. No head movement whatsoever. You're not the Korean zombie, little bro. None of you are. You ain't got the chin like that. But yeah, I'm going to go William Gomis. I was very impressed by his performance against Joe Anderson Brito. Raged about it live because I wanted Brito to win, and I thought, you know, Brito maybe could have won the fight. Don't get me wrong. It was a split decision for a reason. But he did stay at range, stay out of danger, and we've seen Brito tear it up against lesser opponents, so he definitely separated himself there. He also has a win over Yanis Gamori, finished him off. Francis Marshall, good prospect at the time, 7-0, beat him. Jano Aaron's performance wasn't the best, but we see some improvement in William Gomis' game. And he's a young guy, 27, got a lot to improve on. I'm going to side with William Gomis here. I'm going to side with William Gomis to get the job done over Hyder Amil. I know he's undefeated 10-0, but I don't see it. I'm going to go William Gomis. Better at range. Hyder Amil needs to be in the pocket with his hooks, swinging over and over again. I can see Gomis picking him apart with shots on the outside. A little bit difficult to do in the apex, but I'm going to trust him to do so. So I'm going to go towards Gomis, getting this one done. But I'm going to say he gets a finish. I'm going to say he gets a finish later in this fight. I think the difference will be so much that it will start to tally up damage and eventually start to put together the pieces late in the second or the third round for a finish. We move on. Nasrat Haqparast versus Esteban Ribovics. I'm going with Esteban Ribovics purely because I think Nasrat's a little bit of a straight punch merchant. He has an uppercut sometimes as well. Sometimes he'll dip to the body. But he's quite simple in the way that he approaches the game. And at 155, I just don't like trusting simple styles. To be honest with you, you've got to have that X factor about you. You know, and if you are going to make it to the top with more of a simple looking style, you're going to have that next level durability and power in your hands. And I know Nasrat's got some finishes in the UFC. I just don't think he's got that level of power to give Ribovics problems where he's going to get hurt. I think Ribovics has got the power advantage. I think Ribovics is more dynamic. I think Ribovics moves better on the outside. He has better footwork. He switches stances better. He's more versatile in the game. He can mix it up a little bit better than Nasrat as well. I thought Nasrat lost pretty clearly to Jared Gordon. And I think Ribovics is better than Jared Gordon. I think he's a better striker than Jared Gordon. And I think he mixes it up well. Good hooks, good kicks as well. He mixes in very good kicks into his game. Rips the body well, other than when he's trying to finish Daniel Zellhuber, which is the one time that he should have ripped the body. I'm going to side with Esteban Ribovics. He's got momentum right now. Nasrat Haqparast is, you know, he went to war in his last fight. He's had a few wars in his career now. That's starting to take a bit of a toll on him. Last fought in June of 2024. Of course, we've got Esteban Ribovics, who fought on the UFC 300 card, had a Fight of the Year contender. But he didn't really take too much of the damage himself. He was getting hit in the fight, but he didn't take too much of the damage himself. If he can navigate the straight punches at range of Daniel Zellhuber enough to win himself the fight on it, I reckon he can do the same to Nasrat. And I think he'll be able to chew up the leg a little bit as well. So I'm going with Esteban Ribovics. I don't know why this is below the next fight on the card. This should be the co-main event. What is the UFC doing? He just had a Fight of the Year on the UFC 300 card. Or no, the UFC 300 card. He had a Fight of the Year on the Sphere card. I've been saying the 300 card this whole time. On the Sphere card, he had a Fight of the Year. And now you're putting him not in the co-main event to make room for who? We'll get to it. I'm siding with Esteban Ribovics. And I'm going to say that he gets this one done 29-28, close competitive decision, but he mixes it up way better. He's the one landing body kicks and a head kick here and there, partially blocked. Those little things like to be seen by the judges. I'm going to go with Ribovics, to be honest with you. Little slower than Nasrat, but I think he makes up for it in every other area of the game. So I'm going to go with Esteban. Decision, 29-28. We move on. Cody Brundage versus Julian Marquez. In the co-main event of a fight night in UFC 2025. Marquez is 9-5. That's his record. He's old now. He's 34. The Cuban Missile Crisis. More like the midlife crisis, mate. What are you doing? You're on a 4-fight losing streak. 3-fight losing streak, sorry. If we're counting the great run that he had when he defeated Sam Alvey. This is the people that are still in the UFC. Why? Why are you paying these people to be on the roster? You idiots. Cut the fat. Pay the actual guys a little tad bit more. This is how you play this. It's all good though. I'm going with Cody Brundage. Just more consistent recently, which is crazy to say because he's not good either. Lost to Bo Nickel. No contest to Abdul Razak Hassan. People gave him shit for that. Abdul absolutely illegally struck him over and over and over again in that fight to the back of the head. He's a dirty fucking fighter, and I'm glad he got slept by Cesar Almeida, the bitch. He absolutely illegally went for a finish on Cody Brundage in that fight, if you watch it back. Over and over again, back of the head shots in that fight. No wonder the fight got called a no contest. But he has a win over Zachary Reese, Cody Brundage. He has a win over Jacob Malkoun because Malkoun illegally finished him. There's some wins. What are we doing here? But he beat Tresean Gore. He beat Dalcha Lungiambula with a comeback guillotine after some trouble early on. He's got finishing potential. Julian Marquez is on a 3-fight loss streak by TKO. Brutally finished by Zachary Reese. Brutally finished by Marc-Andre Barriault. Viciously finished by Gregory Rodriguez. If Marc-Andre Barriault's styling on you for a finish, I'm going to go Cody Brundage. Younger, probably hungrier to prove some shit. Factory X Muay Thai he trains at. Julian Marquez. I also hear a rumor about Marquez and what he's been getting up to. Likes a bit of a drink, I hear. Don't know. I'm not going to despair where I get my things from. But that's what I'm hearing. Loves a drink. Since his time off on his 3-fight losing streak. Wouldn't be surprised if he misses weight for this. Alright? So, yeah. Last chance for him. A lot of pressure on. If he loses this one, he's out. Same with Brundage, but I think Brundage is just more committed to the game. And I ain't hearing no rumors. So, I'm going to go with Cody Brundage. And I'm going to say that Cody Brundage gets this one done. Maybe by finish himself. I could see a finish from Brundage here. He's not that bad, Brundage. I know he's had some stinky performances, but Malkoon's pretty good. You know? Abdul illegally finished him. Just viciously attacking the back of his head over and over again. He threw Bo Nickel off of him. He landed a strike or two in that fight. You know, he did get smushed and eventually finished. I get it, but... Slammed Zachary Reese out. That's pretty impressive as well. Yeah, I'm not going with Julian Marquez. I'm siding with Cody Brundage. We move on. Up the card to another fight. Manel Kape versus Asu Almabayev. I'm going with Manel Kape. He's the truth. He's going to be the champ. He's making his way all the way to the top. You know we like Manel Kape here. And I'm not just picking him because I like him. Because I'd rather, to be honest with you, not pick him because he stood me up for an interview this week. Said he would get back to me. Never got back to me. Saw him on DJ's podcast the next day. It was pre-recorded, I know. Either way. I'll get back to you. Just check my schedule. I get it, though. He's got a big fight this week. So I honestly don't like pestering fighters. So if they don't want to and they don't insist in sometimes after my request, then I just sort of go, yeah, you know what? Let them have their fight week. I'm not going to be the guy on fucking a day before weigh-ins going, are you forgetting something? You know what I mean? I don't want to be that guy. So I'm still rooting for Manel Kape. I like Manel Kape. He's a cool dude. And I think he's very, very stylish. And that last fight, could there be better momentum to be coming off of? He looked amazing against Bruno Silva. That is the type of Manel Kape we've been waiting for in the UFC. I've been waiting for that type of performance from him. And we haven't had it yet. And now we've had it. So we're going to start to see prime Manel Kape truly have the performances that we've been waiting for. The Makayev fight. Could have gone to him very close. I gave it to Makayev in all honesty. But he was pulling his shorts down and stalling in the fight. And it was just disgusting. And Manel Kape, I actually think, broke his foot in that fight, didn't he? Something along those lines. He had some bad injury early in the fight where he had a broken foot. And he was still able to take it to such a close decision. And that's Makayev, who's very, very good at grappling. And Asu Almabayev can grapple, but I think if Kape can somewhat not get dominated by Makayev in the grappling and keep that to a minimum, I think he can keep Asu Almabayev to a minimum as well. And Almabayev's just made it close against some opponents. Jose Johnson, you know, it wasn't the easiest fight for him, but he made it happen. CJ Vergara to a decision. I'm not seeing the finishing potential that Kape has. So if there is going to be a finish, I'm leaning towards Kape being the one to get it. We got 5 rounds to work. I like Kape's experience. He's had these big fights before. He's been at Rising in front of a crowd, in front of Asakura before. He's had those 2 fights with him. I reckon Manel Kape, even though this is in the Apex and it's not in front of a big crowd, he's had these big moments of the main event and the spotlight's on him and everyone's paying attention. Is Kape going to deliver, you know? I know Almabayev's probably not going to be like staged for it. Like he's not going to get stage fright or anything like that. But I just think Manel Kape's a much more impressive fighter. And you know what's a very underrated performance from Manel Kape? Go back in time, okay? Not the Makayev fight. Beat Felipe Dos Santos. That was one of his weaker performances, in my opinion. But there was short notice stuff. You know how that can be sometimes for fighters. Cara France pulled out and got himself a title shot. Good for him. Bunch of fights fell through before that as well. He was on a 3-fight losing fight streak. So if there's ever going to be a fight where you're like, oh, I'm not going to have a good performance here. He lost so many opponents in the build-up to that all year long. Beat David Dvorak. Zalgas Magilov finished him really early in the fight. Flying knee KO over O'Day Osborne. You know, this is... I know Asu Almabayev also finished O'Day Osborne, but who the fuck hasn't these days? Let's be real, my nan's done it. Welcome to the club. I rate his fight with Alejandro Pantoja, and he beat Mateus Nicolau. He just beat him 2 rounds to 1. I thought he beat him pretty clear, and that was a bit of a bad decision. So I'm not going to look at that and say, well, he lost to Mateus and Almabayev beat him. I'm not going to do that. But the Pantoja fight, he took a round off Pantoja in a 3-rounder. Made the last 2 pretty close. You know? Stepped up to take that fight. I like that. I think that looks good in hindsight. Real good in hindsight. And now that he's got the momentum off the Bruno Silva win and he's active, this is active Kape. You know, he fought in December of 2024. This is March of 2025. He's back 3 months later. We're going to see the Kape that we've been waiting to see, I think. So I'm going to side with Manel Kape here. Finishing potential goes to him. I think stand-up wise, he's a little bit better. Also, Almabayev can be tricky. He can throw some wheel kicks and crazy techniques here and there that can catch people off guard. But I think Kape's got the power difference, finishing potential difference. I think he'll be able to stuff the takedowns. He's got wicked scrambles and takedown defense. More used to fivers, in my opinion. And I reckon he's going to be able to go out there and style on Almabayev. I'm actually going to go with Manel Kape getting himself a TKO in the 2nd or 3rd round. It's going to be patient, tentative. There will be a moment where he lands a shot and follows up to get himself a finish. And it will be Kape season in the flyweight division. Moving forward, he's going to take over the game. I'm going with Manel Kape getting this one done. I'll say 3rd round TKO up against the cage. Puts away Asu Almabayev. I'm going with Manel. He'll thrive and pull this one off in the main event. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Use code GURU. It helps. Otherwise, it's worthless to even follow what the sponsorship was. Goodbye.